You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Affected by Altitude, the Colorado Rockies podcast from Rocky Mountain Rooftop, an affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Skyler Timmons, and once again, calling in a pinch hitter as Evan was unavailable, bringing back our good friend of the show, Paul Holden of the Locked On Rockies podcast. Paul, thanks for joining us from the Pacific Northwest.
Happy to be here. It's rainy, it's cold. It's a perfect time to talk about this really exciting part of the baseball season.
Yes. Paul, I don't know if you knew, but I spent 2 years in Oregon serving a mission, a church mission, and so I do not miss that rain one bit.
You know, it's not the rain that gets me down. It's the fact that the sun goes down at 3. Like you get spoiled because in the summer, the sun stays up till 9 and it's prime temperature more often than not. And it's great. But yeah, it's especially right now in the early winter stages, this is where it's hey, if you don't go outside, between, so many people and so many of my coworkers go to work at the dark and leave in the dark. And it's just woof, not a good time.
Yeah. And then trudging around in the rain nonstop. It's trying to talk to people. Not fun.
Yeah, everyone's just trying to get to a dry spot.
Yeah, but beautiful place, Pacific Northwest. I was in Oregon. Nice and green up there.
Oh, yeah. That's the one thing. Colorado's got the beauty too, but not as much green as out here. But it was, especially this year, a lot more green. Because there were points where Colorado was getting hammered with more rain than we were this year with all that craziness. I was hearing about all the rain that people were dealing with. I've never heard about that in my entire life. And I've been gone for a bit though, so I haven't dealt with the good, crazy, fun Colorado summer in a bit. I miss knowing when you're oh, look at that thunderstorm in about an hour and a half. That's going to roll over and just dump rain for about 10 minutes and then it'll be gone and then we'll be good.
It was a stark contrast when I came home and I live in High Desert Valley here in Southern Colorado. Brown as can be. Got home around December. It's why is it so brown? Ugh.
It's the desert. Yeah, you forgot that the Colorado still has got that desert vibe going on there too.
Oh yeah, I live in the highest valley desert in the world. Oh, forgot about that. But yeah, beautiful place. One day I hope to get back up there. Plus, I like the Mariners, so that works. And Portland Pickles aren't too bad when they're not posting weird things on Twitter with their mascot.
They do like to post weird things, though. That's for sure. You always see them popping up out of nowhere.
But we're not here to talk about Oregon, though, and the Pacific Northwest and Washington, all that good stuff. We're here to talk about the Rockies, whether we want to or not. We try to kill as much time as we can sometimes. But winter meetings, that's kind of the big thing now. Around the clock, it's pretty slow news drip coming from the Rockies. There's little minor league signings here and there, but nothing really significant that inches the needle towards contention. But the winter meetings are probably the biggest, event of this off season, aside from where Shohei signs. But for the Rockies specifically, winter meetings are probably going to be where it's at, where we may get some news nuggets and maybe some rumors of maybe an actual move or something. But specifically, not typically a whole lot happening at the winter meetings for the Rockies.
It's at least a moment where the Rockies have to talk to us. And we talked about this, I think, the last time I was on the show, that it's one of the most frustrating things about this offseason is the lack of communication from the people running the Rockies. Because listen, just tell us you're doing the rebuild, because we just had the worst season in franchise history. There are questions that we need answers to, and they are the ones that need to give it to us. So, yeah, I'm not expecting the Rockies to do much. I'm expecting us mostly the winter meetings to be about Shohei. I bet you that White Sox pitcher, I bet you he gets traded at during the meetings there. It sounds like Bieber and who's that from? Someone from wasn't Tampa shopping a pitcher too? I'm surprised.
Tyler Glasnow is on the block. Emmanuel Clase might be on the block.
I can't believe they're shopping Rosarena too. I mean, that's a sign that they're I mean, if they actually are trading all those pieces, the Rays are doing one of their things where they're just doing, okay, thanks. We gave it a shot. We're gonna retool it and re-go with the next crop of people. Which
with the next cheap product.
I personally think that they're getting in their own way by doing that. Granted, they're dealing with the fact that they lost one of their best players in one of the craziest and worst storylines of the season last year. But even with those names, it's just unfortunate to say it's like the Rockies can't get any of these guys. I mean, there's just, unless they are already ready to, if the Rockies make a big move, I think I know what it would be. Brendan Rodgers would get traded because like Thomas Harding keeps bringing it up. And it just seems like there's more smoke to it there that maybe I'm just looking more into it, but I mean, because when you look at the prospects and everything right behind, it's just kind of like last year was way more important for Brendan Rodgers than we thought. I think. I mean, I think I don't know. I wasn't prepared for the Rockies to have the next second baseman ready to go. By I mean, let's face it. They could probably go. They could go Amador. What, June? Something like that. So, but I talked about this yesterday, and I think you pointed out. I think it was, I can't remember who wrote about it on Purple Row, where it was talking about the money the Rockies owe to Chris Bryant and everything. The Rockies have these weird issues they have of what the heck to do with Chris Bryant. And can you really trade from your Brendan Rodgers and your depth pieces, the ones that are going to be impacted by playing time? Your Tolias, Goodman, Bouchard, and Montero. Like, can you really trade those guys yet before getting into the season with question marks with Brendan Rodgers' health, question marks with Chris Bryant's health? And I'm not as worried about him as the other two, but Charlie Blackmon did miss considerable time last year. So can you make an aggressive move, or can you move right now? And I just don't think the Rockies can. I think the Rockies are pretty hamstringed by their top prospects need a little bit more time to just get through this. Mm-hmm. And they need to start the season healthy to really see what they have. Because I think the Brendan Rodgers trade value can only go up if he has a strong first half of the season.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that's probably where we'll see Rockies movement in the winter meetings, is maybe putting out feelers. I'm sure Bill Schmidt will have some discussions and talking to guys like, hey, we're thinking, what are you looking at? What do we have that maybe you're interested in? Because we need pitching. And because it's easy to replace position players, honestly, because they're dime a dozen as well. But good pitching, good solid starting pitching, you have to do a little bit more to bring them in. And are they going to be willing to do that? And I think that's what we'll see in the winter meetings. Is maybe we'll hear some interest. They'll maybe be a little minor signing, but it's one of the things we'll have discussions with guys about. Brendan Rodgers, Ryan McMahon, Elias Diaz. These guys that have value right now that could bring in some pitching, maybe some pitching with some controllable years. Or maybe we'll see another like Cal Quantrill trade where they didn't give up much, but he was also coming off a pretty down year. So they're probably going to be, if we see any moves, they're going to be bargain hunting, so to speak, scraping that bargain barrel.
And I don't hate that Cal move, though. Catching prospect. You're not really. I mean, you're a catching prospect that you don't even talk about because there's already two that are really on the up and up. And Drew Romo is supposed to be like one of the big contributors of the Rockies of the future. So I like that, a guy that you look at some of the numbers and some of the stuff, and again, he's not going to blow you away. But it's consistency, and it's what I talked about in my episode about Brent Suter this week. I know starter and relief pitcher different, but Give me a guy with a 3 ERA that can strike people out, that, doesn't give up a lot of home runs. Like, the Rockies need some more of those guys. And, it seems like Cal can get weak contact, but I'm just worried again, where it's just going to be another year of Rockies pitchers missing over the middle of the plate and being punished for it. And, that's if 2025 really is the goal, which we've talked about. I'd say most people in Rockies media have said, if things go well for the Rockies, 2025 creaks open the window. I'm not saying anybody's thinking the Rockies are a slam dunk in 2025 by any means of the imagination. But if this team sees progression from Jones, Tovar, Bouchard, Doyle, and good play from some of their veterans, and good pitching from Kyle Freeland and Austin Gomber, you have to go into and make moves to make your team better for 2025. And it's going to come at the expense of somebody. The Rockies can't get starting pitching without losing Diaz, McMahon, or Rogers. Or a package of Tolia, Bouchard. You're losing top prospect, or you're losing veteran players. And then I'm just curious. It's like, part of me wants to see Brendan Rodgers, see if he can learn how to play third base, and see if Ryan McMahon is the one that can get shopped and find someone that can unlock his swing. I mean, I love Ryan McMahon's defense. I really do. But he is, I think, my most frustrating veteran Rockies player to watch outside of Chris Bryant. I mean, Chris Bryant is above and beyond. I mean, he's got a long way to go. And it's not that I love Ryan McMahon's entire style. He plays beautiful defense with style. I love the explosive nature of his swing. But we have seen too many times from Ryan McMahon with runners in scoring position, runners on, and it's a 3-pitch strikeout, a 4-pitch strikeout. It's really bad swing and misses where it looks like he's not seeing the ball. And this is me armchair quarterbacking. I understand how hard it is to hit in the major leagues, but this is what we've been talking about with Ryan McMahon for years at this point. So for me, when I get tangled up in my fan feels about a Brendan Rodgers trade and him being the one that's always talked about, it's like Brendan Rodgers went from a batting under 100 to being one of the Rockies' best batters in a season while playing Gold Glove caliber defense. Like, that's the type of guy that gets me really excited. But on the opposite side of the coin, Ryan McMahon, he's going to give you 160. Ryan McMahon can play 162 if he really needed to. He seems to stay healthy more often than not. And when he's banged up, it's a slight tweak or something small that doesn't require a long time out of the game. So I think the Rockies are facing a really, really interesting situation here. But there are teams that just are perfect matches for the Rockies for trading. And it's going to come down to how much do you want to believe in the veterans that you show your loyalty to, or are you going to turn it over fully to the young guys? And in 2024, we see an infield that is Tovar, Amador, Montero, and maybe McMahon, because you're ready to make that move. I just, there's a lot of tough spots here for the Rockies when it comes to making a trade, because this is, while the Rockies don't deal with attendance issues or other, weird issues that other teams have to deal with, they have to deal with no pitcher ever wanting to come here. And that's a hurdle that they have to start overcoming, especially if they want to get back to contention. And to set that up, you're going to have to make a tough call here this year.
Yeah. And instead of, I know there's a weird way to put it, but basically kidnapping players to come in and play in your state.
Right.
And I like Cal Quantrill, not worried about it. And I think more media people make bigger deals if no pitcher wants to come to Colorado. They don't want to go there. Why not? Yeah. They'd have to come pitch there anyway, eventually. But and guys like a challenge, but it's exactly, that's something I think probably Bill Schmidt going into winter meetings, and that's something that they need to do, is just do more relationship building, changing the persona and perception of the team with the other clubs, with other players. Like, I don't think they changed anybody's perception when they signed Chris Bryant, but can they change perception with other moves? They're like, hey, we're serious, we're wanting to do this. Because maybe putting out the feelers. Who can you find to try and contend better? You look at the Seattle Mariners trading Eugenio Suarez out of nowhere. You're like, what the heck? Why are they trading him? Their window of contention's open. And there's some frustration there because they're almost kind of going in the opposite direction that the Mariners should be going. No, you should be adding to your team. But if it's part of a bigger plan of, we just don't want Suarez striking out so much. It's just not working for us. We want to change approach, which is good. And Ryan McMahon's basically our version of Eugenio Suarez, just with much better defense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what can they do putting around the feelers of, hey, make a bold move. Like do something bold that makes sense. Not we're signing Chris Bryant out of left field. Like, what the heck? Like, why?
Yeah. And you can also make a bold move, but make it a moderate one as well.
Yeah.
Hey, sign Chris Bryant, but to a 5-year deal for, and not this. The Rockies just love it. Oh, you know what? Ian Desmond, 4 years, baby. Or like all these people, it's like, no, like do what you're doing so far to fix your bullpen. Smart, and now getting Brent Suter and bringing him in on a good, smart, quick deal. That's who you should be talking to. Convince him to come back, because that's a guy that you can point at and say, that guy pitched in Milwaukee his whole life, his whole career, comes to Colorado and handles it incredibly well. You see, the only thing that he missed, or that was up for him, was walks. In fact, he allowed 6 less home runs this year than he did in his past 2 seasons in Milwaukee. Like, there are plenty of storylines and people that you can say, like, look at that stuff's working. That's how you do it. But you hit the nail on the head. The Rockies, the perception about the Rockies, especially within the organization, can't continue to be, what are they doing? What are they doing? Who are they? What is their plan? What are they thinking? Blah, blah, blah. You have to start building it up from there. And if you got to trade away some of these last veteran players, if they trade McMahon, Diaz, and Rogers, say they trade all of them for, and they go completely youth movement and see what they can get back, that will be the biggest tonal shift the Rockies have ever had. And maybe outside of the Nolan Arenado trade, I would say that would be a moment where the Rockies organization is completely changing as a group, and they are seeing something differently, and they are moving on to a completely new era of I was about to say Mario baseball, of Rockies baseball. But because like the name we haven't brought up in trades, because I don't think they'll be able to get one done. The Rockies can't trade Chris Bryant. I don't think anyone takes on that unless the Yankees really like what they see. Unless hey, you know what? Send him to the Dodgers. I don't care. Like, he can go play, if say Freddie Freeman gets hurt or something like that, or Freddie Freeman signed a massive deal with them, didn't he?
Yeah, more or less. It was like 6 years.
Yeah. So I was like, well, maybe, they might lose Freddie in free agency or whatever, but like, I don't know. It's like, that one's tough, man. The Chris Bryant deal. And again, he's got more than half his contract to turn it around. Sure. But that's going to be the long-standing looming cloud of classic Rockies over this era of the Chris Bryant era of Mario Rockies baseball. I was doing Mario baseball stuff before we were recording, so I got it on the brain. But it will always be like the talking point.
Yeah. Do you think by when all is said and done, the Chris Bryant deal will be viewed in this? Basically, this is the position player version of the Mike Hampton deal.
I think the Chris Bryant deal and the player himself has potential for this not to be the worst contract in Rockies history. I firmly believe, and this is no slight to the person, because he was a very good person. The Ian Desmond deal and the Daniel Murphy deals, and that's how the Rockies handling first base when they literally could have had so many better options, and same with catcher. Like, I think that's a bigger deal than the Chris Bryant deal, because to be totally honest, if we had healthy Chris Bryant the Rockies don't lose 100 games last year. If the Rockies actually had Chris Bryant for both of these seasons, they don't make the playoffs, but they're better and they're a deeper team in the lineup. I don't think Daniel Murphy or Ian Desmond did very much contributing to the Rockies at all in a crucial and critical situation.
Yeah.
And I think the Chris Bryant namesake does have value. And while I'm down on Chris Bryant, even with the power, if he can hit things in the gap in Coors Field for the rest of his time, and he can slap effective singles and such on the road, and if he can be this year's version of Russell Wilson, you know what I'm saying? It's not the player, it's not flashy, but he's contributing. He's helping the lineup. He's helping the Rockies, and he's playing a different role. I think that's going to be a better value. I think Chris Bryant's contract still has the potential to provide value, because like I am not going to give up on the fact that the guy is a World Series champion and an MVP. Like that stuff. I do get in the homer stuff of that stuff matters. And like, while it's a bummer last year, I think having Charlie Blackmon and Chris Bryant as your veteran leaders in that clubhouse for those guys last year was a reason why we saw Nolan Jones succeed, Brenton Doyle succeed, and why I really hope that we'll see Montero succeed as someone who's going to get a lot of time working with Chris Bryant, because again, the guy's a champion and he's an MVP. I mean, those are the two mountaintops of mountaintops in baseball, are they not?
Mm-hmm. Then add in he's Rookie of the Year, all that stuff, and I think that'll be the big thing is stop treating him like he's the savior of our team. Same with Russell Wilson. I love that comparison. Yeah, you're paying him a ton of money.
I'm not going to sit here and deny the fact that Chris Bryant, the contract and the money owed to Chris Bryant's a problem. But again, the Rockies are not a team that can sit here and cry poor to me. I'm sorry. Like, that's just, I do not accept that anymore. I like, Dick Monfort and his family are buying real estate in the area. They have a full stadium. They're gonna get a TV deal either from, they got either one of the biggest names in sports media sitting there looming, waiting to buy their media rights, or baseball will pick them up, and it'll be super easy to watch them, and people can watch a fun Rockies team. They don't have to deal with the same thing. So I think they can navigate this Chris Bryant deal, and potentially, I mean, hey, maybe the Rockies do start getting into contention. What about restructuring? What about, like, if, hey, we showed you the commitment, we rode with, we chose you, we've been paying, we've gotten you in the lineup, but say it's the last 2 years of his deal, the young guys for the Rockies have panned out. They've made a couple deals for some arms that are working. Some of these, pretty, eyebrow raising arms we have in the system have come to fruition, and the Rockies are looking at like they had another small 2-year window where the Rockies are looking really good. Maybe they can restructure, and that helps them do something differently at the trade deadline. But this is all what ifs. But I just think, looking at where the team is at, the moves they made leading up to the Bryant deal, I just don't sit there and have as much ire as I do how the Rockies handled first base and catcher during the contention window. I think the Rockies could have easily kept Jonathan Lucroy. They could have easily gotten many better first base options, and instead Ian Desmond was, I'm pretty sure, statistically the worst player in baseball over those 4 years. So it's tough though. It really is, because it's just so frustrating, because it's like, when Chris Bryant plays, it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, he's not shabby.
It's not what we wanted, but it's like, hey, the guy goes, 2 for 3 with a couple of singles and an RBI. Like, I'm not gonna be mad at that. What did the Rockies need the most last year? They needed somebody to just hit the ball when runners were in scoring position. They needed to just hit a base knock with a runner on third. And like, it's not going to be the flashy Chris Bryant ball that we thought, but if he contributes and contributes the way that he can and has in the past, like, it'll be all right. But it's going to, I mean, at the end of the day, ain't my money.
Yeah. Indeed. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break here for our first segment. Here's the fun thing with Paul is you get a plan, and then we just go off someplace else on that journey. It's all good. So when we come back, we'll continue on some conversation, maybe touch on one thing from the winter meetings, and then it's Hall of Fame time, baby. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back here to Affected by Altitude. Skyler Timmons here, joined by Paul Holden of Locked On Rockies. And spent a lot of time just talking about the roster construction and everything there in that first part. And one thing I did want to touch on with the winter meetings, they're probably the big thing for the Rockies. Rule 5 draft, we'll see what they do if they bring in anybody. Now, maybe there's a pitcher they can pick up that could be big league ready, or they pull what they've done in the past, immediately select a guy, and then immediately trade him away for cash. Happened last year. Notably, it happened with Mark Canha. People forget that he was a Rocky for like 2 seconds. Like 2 seconds, then traded away and became an Oakland Athletic before they tanked everything into the ground. But the draft lottery, I think, is the big one. A lot of Rockies fans will keep an eye on this year because, unfortunately, with 103 losses, Rockies had one of the worst records in baseball, and they're in the top 3 of top odds to earn that number 1 pick. I think it's like an 18.6% odds or whatever to win that number 1 pick. But at least a little bit exciting, at least a silver lining to all those losses. Like, it could be worthwhile to get a number 1 pick, which then hopefully the Rockies can utilize effectively to bring in a franchise-changing type of player. But are you excited about the draft lottery? Do you like the prospects of getting that number 1 pick?
Rocky's curse says no. If I recall correctly, they've never had a number 1 overall pick, right?
No, I think they've had 2 and they've had a 3, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
they've had top 3.
No, and I don't know. I just why would good things happen to the Rockies? That's not how it works. I as I was sitting there and thinking about it, I haven't put too much thought in this, but I just don't know how I feel about draft lotteries. I just don't necessarily know if I find that to be the best way to do it. I mean, it gives teams all sorts of teams chances, but like the Rockies should have a top 3 pick, like what they would they have the number 2 overall pick behind Oakland, record wise, I believe.
Were the
White Sox
worst or White Sox?
Might have been the Royals too.
Yeah, so, I think it might have been the Royals.
Be a thing that helps the Rockies, I guess, in the long run. But I don't know. I just think if the Rockies have the number 1 overall pick, they have to just really take their time. And I think they also have to sit there and say, if there is a guy that they believe can be a game-changing position player, I don't think you can ignore that. I really don't. I mean, if there is I don't follow, this is one of my biggest flaws is the lower levels of the game, especially college baseball. My knowledge is very, very limited. But if there's a guy that is Larry Walker again, if there's a guy because as much as we focus on pitching, man, this offense has been abysmal for a while. I mean, since the playoffs, this offense has just continued to trend downwards and lose quality hitters. And I think the Rockies got some will improve in some areas in offense next year, but there's a lot of sophomore slump worries from guys as they're going through. It's gonna the second year in the bigs is always really difficult, just in my eyes. So if you're the Rockies, yes, pitching, but if there's someone that is brings a really thunderous bat that's close to major league ready, I don't necessarily again. At third, what about third base? Again, what if there is a dominant third baseman out there? Now's the time to get someone in the minors ready to go because McMahon's extension lasts 3-4 more years, something like that. I think, if the next third baseman can't be something the Rockies are ignoring, because I would say that's the position that has the biggest question mark, at least going forward when you're looking at a draft. So But at the same time, if it's a pitching heavy draft, if there's a guy you love, you go get that arm. I ain't gonna complain if you draft a pitcher number 1 overall and he's the number 1 pitching prospect in the draft. Ain't gonna complain about that. Absolutely not. At the same time, I think that's a narrative that people don't always talk about with the Rockies, is the fact that it's always, Coors Field, this team's always going to hit. And it's like, you have not watched this team.
So it depends on quality of coaching and player and use of analysis and metrics to help them improve.
Yep, exactly.
All of which have been lacking.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's, I don't know. I can't sit here and say that I distrust Bill Schmidt as much as I distrust other GMs for the Rockies in this situation. I think the smaller, lower level moves that Schmidt has made have been smart. I mean, again, the Rockies made one of the best trades in all of baseball last year. No one wants to talk about that. But again, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Blake Street Banter posted a player A, player B comparison of Nolan Jones through 152 games in his rookie season and Todd Helton 152 games through his rookie season. And Nolan Jones was better than Todd Helton through 152 games. And Todd Helton was second in the rookie of the year voting that year. So there's some really, I think that I am slowly building my trust in Bill Schmidt, the GM, because of how the last, since the story debacle of the trade deadline by committee, I'm building. But I ain't getting ahead of myself here either.
Because he still answers to somebody at the top who makes all the decisions.
Because I guess in that vein, like thinking now that you've had time to think about it, do you like the Herman move?
Extending him?
Yeah. See that? I think that's I love Herman. We all love Herman Marquez. And reality, I need Herman Marquez to pitch 6 more months for the Rockies to cement his Rockies legacy, and then the Rockies should see what they can get.
Yeah.
But I mean, but see, that's the thing where it's just like, there's that Rockies loyalty, like there it is. Like Herman could have been a really interesting, and the Rockies, I think, did him a favor, giving him a chance to come back and pitch and heal. And then, going from there, the Rockies might be able to benefit from a good Herman bounce back, just like he's benefiting it for his career. So, but it's that's what I mean. It's like one of those moves still comes up and you're just like, I like it, but at the same time, it's
the Senzatella move right now is still.
Was that a Schmidt move?
Good. Yeah.
See,
right after that interim season, all right, you're the GM. He immediately went out. Okay, I'm going to extend CJ Crone and Elias Diaz and Antonio Senzatella, not Kyle Freeland quite yet, but all in that same.
Freeland was before.
Freeland might have been. Oh, that was right.
Schmidt was the one that re-signed all of the.
Yeah, these extensions, he did them.
Gotcha. So I have that mixed up a little bit, but I don't really, those moves at the time I don't hate, but the Senza move, I just don't. I think we should have saw again, a guy seems very nice and a really bad stretch of luck for him in his last bit, but I think Senza should have been the pitcher you're looking at and saying, especially when
we can live without you.
Yeah, especially when it's like there's another world where the Rockies lose Antonio Senzatella, but they keep John Gray. Like that helps them tremendously. John Gray misses 10 games for blisters at a time. Antonio Senzatella has pitched once in 2 seasons. Like, and that's not, who's to say he tears his ACL while fielding and then has Tommy John the first game. That's Black Cat and a broken mirror and walking under a ladder that he did when he was a kid or something like that ruined that. So I don't know. It's like I'm building that trust, but it's the Rockies front office. I refuse to sit and say you have my full undying support. I was ready to give you that after you extended Nolan Arenado and said you were going to build a team around him. But no. I ain't falling for that this time.
Yeah, and
But
when it comes to that draft, is what I was going to say is that's where that's where they can build a lot of trust. Is they get, even if it's not the number one, but those top three, that you really make it count. You get yourself even a Jackson Holiday, if you find yourself a Bryce Harper type of
That's
player.
what I'm saying. You can't ignore if your scouts, if your numbers, if your and the hype around a guy is there, you get him because that guy, a Nolan Arenado. I mean, it's like what can happen if you draft and bring up this MVP level game changer guy. It changes the entire narrative of your franchise.
Yeah, and position player wise or pitching wise, a guy that like a Paul Skeens who's pretty dang close after getting drafted to immediately come and start the big leagues for the Pirates or whoever. And so that's going to be they can't waste it. They've wasted first round picks before.
Didn't the Rangers draft a guy and he was great in the playoffs? Wasn't there like a young rookie that was just like crushing it for them or something like that? And he
Evan Carter. Yeah,
he
was drafted last year.
There was a guy that I thought was like fresh out of that was playing like college baseball earlier in the year and then was playing in the minor or playing in the World Series, I thought this year. But that's the thing. It's just it's the identity formation is now.
Yeah.
Can they actually build one? We'll just have to see.
Really quick, speaking of draft picks that panned out pretty well, Todd Helton. It's Hall of Fame season. We're slowly seeing votes come in. Ballots being revealed over on X, formerly known as Twitter, from Ryan Thibodeau. His Hall of Fame tracker. Definitely go give him a follow and check it out. But things are looking good for Todd Helton. This could be the year finally. Came just 11 votes shy last year. There's a bunch of new voters every year that come in. So guys that are a little bit maybe more inclined to vote for Todd Helton. He's getting close. I think he's 72% last year. So it's almost like Adrian Beltre's the lock. Will Todd Helton be joining him?
And I talked about this on my pod. There's so many great threads out there. Just go on X, search Todd Helton, and someone has a thread that's going to convince you. Now, I think the people listening to a Rockies podcast, I don't think we have to do too much convincing of Todd Helton. But my big thing, and I talked about this on my show, is for the voters. And this goes for all the people last year and all this stuff, and the voters that are especially pro steroid users in the hall. As am I. I say Barry Bonds is still one of the greatest hitters we've ever seen. Even he just hit the ball further because he was, doing what he was doing. But just ask yourself, are steroids a bigger deal than Coors Field? If you're negating Todd Helton's success and any Rockies player's success, Larry Walker's really, the game's different now. But if you were negating the Blake Street Bombers era of success of the Rockies due to them playing Coors Field, but you're okay with steroids and those players enjoying their benefits, you're a hypocrite. You're wrong. You're saying that Coors Field has a bigger impact on these guys than steroids. And if I checked, you don't play all your games at Coors Field, but if you were doing steroids, it was every single game that you played. Mixed in with the fact that Todd Helton is in stat lines and has numbers that only like 8 people have, and they're all Hall of Famers or steroid users or people that are, or Mike Trout. Like those are the only people. So on top of all of that, I'm a guy that says this guy chose to play 17 seasons with the Rockies. Like that is also something that I think should be a factor when you're thinking about it. The Rockies are a dumpster fire. They're a joke. You like to laugh at them. I get it. But this guy exemplified greatness while being a Rocky. Not all the time. I know Todd Helton has problems off the field. Like we know that, but like this is a guy that was a role model for generations of Colorado baseballers. I mean, who didn't wear 17 on your teams growing up? At least one person wore 17. It was because of Todd Helton or 33. These guys were big names mixed in with the fact that Todd Helton is one of the greatest first basemen to ever step on the field. He was one of the best defenders. He might be the best doubles hitter of all time. There's the homer really coming out of me. But like, you know what the Rockies are missing? They are missing the Todd Helton at bat. They're missing the fact that the Rockies are down 3. Todd Helton is up, and there's a runner on first, and he has a 12 pitch at bat that's been 3-2 for half of it because he hit 5 foul balls, and then he plunks a double in the gap and gets a rally going. Like, that's what the Rockies are. The guy was just such a professional at everything he did. Plus, hidden ball trick. Come on. That's bonus points, man.
I love. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, I was just to put a bow on it for myself for Todd Helton is, yes, he didn't get to play in the playoffs that much, but when he did, he was an impactful player. The moment was not too big for Todd Helton.
Yeah. And the cool thing is I always love seeing articles when you talk to other players or other Hall of Famers, guys that are intrinsically ingrained into the game. So not the writers, the East Coast writers who never even thought of Todd Helton. They just see Rockies, Coors. He was awful. A-Rod, however, love guys that get canned for an entire season because of steroids. But you talk to those other players, coaches, guys that just watched him, were intrinsically, intimately watching him. They're like, yeah, he's one of the best players I've ever seen. And Dave Roberts for the Dodgers came out. There's an MLB article somebody wrote about, and they talked to Dave Roberts, and he's like, yeah, he's one of the most like intense competitors I've ever seen on a field. Like, a ton of Hall of Famers have that belief. You ask Larry Walker, I'm pretty sure he's going to have some good things to say about Todd Helton. But anybody he played against, Chipper Jones or ton of those guys, even opposing pitchers, like, yeah, he was one of the toughest at bats of my career because, like you said, he just goes out there, he's wasting pitches. Like Charlie Blackmon can kind of do that now. He's kind of taken on that role. He's a lot better plate discipline and bats, but Todd Helton would wear you out until you throw him the pitch he wanted, and then wha-pa, hits a double or a home run.
Because it was amazing how much he was able to control the zone. It was like, oh, you're going to throw it up and in. I'll somehow open up my swing and chop it off. And just to kind of highlight it, a guy that did everything he did during the steroid era while staying clean.
Yeah.
No, and that stuff matters. Like, that era of baseball has that looming steroid. Your favorite player has that cloud looming over him for some people. But Rockies fans can sit there and say that Todd Helton went up against the guys that were juicing and wore them out, and that's a Hall of Famer. And one thing of note that I think with the Rockies, when they eventually have to update Todd Helton's thing, they got to put the gold over 42 too. I can't remember who pointed that out as well, but they're all Hall of Famers. It's kind of weird that the 42 doesn't have the gold around it, right? And only Todd Helton or Larry Walker.
It's more because it's the Rockies' personal touch for their players.
Oh, okay.
Whereas, like Jackie Robinson's just 42 across the league.
Yeah.
So I'm
still a Hall of Famer though.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think that's as big of a deal as our old pal Justin Wick made. It's a good point though. Like, it's good to point that out and something to consider, but I think it's a Rocky specific thing to celebrate their guys that played for them and were Hall of Famers in their Rockies career.
Well, it's the only one thing that they do to recognize their players in their history. So it's the one.
Yeah.
When are they going to change that? When do we get a Rocky, at least a corner of the park dedicated? Actually,
there was supposed to be something at the McGregor Square. They're like, yeah, we'll have a Hall of Fame over there, like a Rockies museum. Nothing. Like, give us a Rockies Hall of Fame to induct these guys. Like, another guy we were going to bring up, Matt Holliday, Hall of Famer. He has a case. Like, there's arguments to be made.
He deserves to stay on the ballot.
Yeah, but he probably doesn't make it in. But you know where he should be? A Rockies Hall of Fame. Oh, Charlie Blackmon, not going to be a Hall of Famer, but Rockies Hall of Fame. Carlos Gonzalez. A lot of those guys. Matt Holliday's in the Cardinals Hall of Fame. Their team Hall of Fame. Like, why don't the Rockies have one? Hand out purple jackets. You get a lot of those.
Oh, I like where you're celebrate purple jackets.
Celebrate the history of the team a little bit and the players that came before. And this is something that always, a whole another conversation we can have another time. about the Rockies.
I think Matt Holliday's got a strong
history.
case, though. I'm looking at the career numbers. He's an all-star. He's a 7-time all-star. He's a World Series champion. He's got a Silver Slugger, 4 Silver Sluggers. He's a NLCS MVP. Does have a batting title. I mean,
MVP runner-up.
44.5 career WAR, 316 home runs, 299 batting average, drove in 1,220, stole 108 bases, an OBP of 379, slugging 510, an OPS of 889. I guess when it stretches out, it starts thinning, but there's a case there. He's someone that deserves to continue the conversation where it's like, Charlie Blackmon, I feel like might be one of those people that gets on the ballot once and that's about it.
Yeah, it's the people that are voting for Chase Utley or Jimmy Rollins. Like, yeah, they had good careers, but it's also kind of in the same era. They're in the same kind of realm as Matt Holliday in terms of production. He was just wasn't very good on defense. If he had just been a DH his whole career or been like a first baseman or something, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Fine living, he'd probably but just consistent, led some Cardinals teams. He deserves a little bit more consideration.
Yeah, and those all-stars were spread out a little bit too. We had 3 straight all-stars with the Rockies from 06 to 08 and doesn't make it in 09, but then does 3 in a row and then is able to make another one in 2015. So he basically was an all-star from 06 to 2012. Almost 6. He was an all-star 5 of those 6 seasons there. And then goes on to get one more. And I know all-star is something, especially when you're a Cardinal and you get a little bit of more influence from other people. But the numbers don't lie. And certainly was someone that still had pop in his bat. And was a Yankee for a year. Completely forgot about that as well. But yeah, I don't think, but I think you totally nail it. It's the Rockies have enough history now to start recognizing, and people would love that. I mean, I finally saw McGregor Square in person for the first time. I got back to Coors for the first time in years this year, and I was like, man, this would be cooler if the team was better. But I was like, there is a lot of room. Like you can definitely do some cool stuff in there, Rockies related, that would really add to the area around the ballpark, which would be really, really cool because I mean, you could do something about the slide in the home. You got Rocktober. I mean, Ubaldo Jimenez is no hitter. You got I just the story of Rocktober is so undertold, man. Like, just because they didn't, and I know that they got swept, but to do what they did, I mean,
one of the greatest runs in baseball history.
Yeah, literally, just to make it to the playoffs. Like, and if the friggin' Red Sox actually just like could not go down early in series,
if Cleveland could have finished the job,
and so it's just like. There's all sorts of things, but in my eyes, there's history to be celebrated there.
Yeah, and hey, the Arizona Diamondbacks, a younger team, are putting in a Hall of Fame next year.
The Diamondbacks are putting the Rockies to shame right now, man. I can tell you that.
Also, the Tampa Bay Rays also have their Hall of Fame set up now. So, come on.
Just another thing and be like, yeah, Rockies.
Yeah, it's good that he's at least on the ballot. I'd love to see Holliday get some votes, at least to stick around. But yeah, Todd Helton, 11 votes shy last year. I think he makes it. We'll be sitting pretty come January, and we can all celebrate and cry and party together.
I mean, it'll feel good. I can tell you he's not going to be wearing a SpongeBob collared shirt.
Probably going to be like
for his induction.
Yeah,
a pretty big drastic difference in personality between the Rockies' 2 first inductees to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like you got just wackadoodle Canadian Larry Walker, and then just dry wit Todd Helton is just kind of dry.
Just Tennessee
that dry
charm.
Cowboy humor. Oh goodness. But it just pops up and it's Peyton Manning. But He'll most likely be wearing a Tennessee Volunteers shirt. That would be my guess. Or maybe he'll be wearing a Rockies polo.
No, you don't think so? Maybe he'll have a framed photo of the horse that he got from the Rockies.
The dead horse.
Oh,
goodness.
jeez.
Rockies just mail him another horse after making the Hall of Fame.
Oh, God.
Here you go.
At least the Rockies won't be complete. Larry Walker waits all that time, and then who does he go into the Hall of Fame with? Oh, just one of the most famous baseball players of all time.
Yeah. Who does Todd Helton
Jeter's going to the Hall of Fame, but this guy.
Yeah, Todd Helton's going in. Oh, and here's Adrian Beltre, one of the most charismatic third basemen in baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to have a whole bunch more to say. And Todd's like, thank you. Appreciate my family, Rockies organization. Baseball's fun.
I love playing in Coors Field, yeah. But we'll go ahead and take one last quick break here, and then we'll come back. We'll play just a little bit of start bench cut. I've got a couple of little scenarios here to try out, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here for the conclusion of Affected by Altitude. Welcome back here on Affected by Altitude. Final segment here, the exciting conclusion.
Bum, bum.
Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Turns into Law and Order. But start bench cut. Folks have never heard of this. Get a scenario. There's like 3 guys, and you have to choose to start one, bench one, and cut one. I'm sure there are other versions of this game that people have played dealing with certain people and relationships, but we're doing this baseball style. So a couple of little scenarios here for you, Paul, of players. I just kind of tried to spearhead some ones. Some of these might have been a little tougher or more random, but here's 3 second basemen that I had found for the Rockies: Marco Scutaro, Mark Ellis, and Harold Castro.
Woof. Wow. Oh boy, Marco Scutaro.
Yeah, Mark Scutaro, most notably, was the starting second baseman in 2012. Was eventually traded to the Giants and was a key factor on their way to a World Series. Mark Ellis played 2013 or 2014.
All right. So it's start bench cut, right?
Yes.
I think I'm going to start Scutaro. I'm going to bench Ellis. I'm going to cut Harold Castro. Hitting Harold.
Yeah.
Hitting Harold. That's just too fresh in my mind of just like how many times I watched Harold Castro play second base this year. And I was like, why am I watching this? I don't know if I feel it as, I feel like you could mix that up, but I feel like Marco Scutaro showing what he was capable of doing after he left the Rockies showed that if the Rockies stuck with him, maybe he could have been, great for them.
Yeah.
But so that's going to be my pick.
Yeah. I really liked Mark Ellis. Like when they brought him over like halfway through the season, whichever year that was, and like veteran had a pretty good little resurgence in Colorado, a solid outing, solid stint. And then he went on and played for the Dodgers for a couple of years. But yeah, the Harold Castro recency bias is it plays a big factor for us in this. Yeah. This next one, Jerks and Profar. There's probably some more recency bias. Tyler Colvin and Gabe Kapler.
Jerks and Profar was at least fun. Was a fun guy. He brought a lot of fun to the game. I will give him that. Gabe Kapler, I don't remember much, but he was, what was that, 02, 03?
Yeah.
And looks like he didn't do much for the Rockies. And who was the third one?
Tyler Colvin.
That sounds more familiar.
Most notably came over in the trade that brought DJ LeMahieu to the Rockies.
Oh man, talk about one of my favorites, DJ LeMahieu. Let's see, Tyler Colvin. Wow, one good season in his entire career. You know what? This is going to be crazy. I'm going to bench Profar. I'm going to cut Colvin. And I'm going to start. No, I don't want to start. I'm going to start Profar was a number 1 pick, like has potential. So like, I think I'll start him because Tyler Colvin literally had 1 good season and it was with the Rockies. Added 290, pretty good lines, 18 home runs that year at 122 hits, drove in 72. It was the best season of his career, but it was a pretty big fall off after that. And it doesn't look like he didn't even stay in the league that much longer.
No,
but woof, was Jerickson Profar bad last year? Oh my goodness. He was not good. He's got the, yeah, I think I'm sticking with that. I'm sticking with that.
I think for me, I'll cut Gabe Kapler because, yeah, like you said, he didn't do much. Yeah. I'll start Colvin because I know Colvin was at least a little bit better fielder than Profar in the outfield, but Profar will head on the bench for me.
Profar is a good clubhouse guy.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Plus, Tyler Colvin survived a broken bat to his neck.
Oh,
you ever hear that story?
Oh my God!
When he was with the Cubs on third base, and then pierced him in the neck.
Talk about random, man.
Yeah, but yeah, that 2012 season like turned out, and then like everything else for a lot of people, it just bottomed out after that. But hey, he had 1 good year, and that works. This next one tried to make him a little bit tougher. Ubaldo Jimenez, John Gray, German Marquez.
Wow, this one's actually really hard. Whew. Dude, Ubaldo was so good. I mean, he was like the first Rockies pitcher, I think, that people you were like, wow, that guy. I love German Marquez, man. And John Gray. I love all these guys. Wow, this one's a tough one. We get to pick let me hold on. I have to compare at least 1 year because like I'm thinking of I get the best year version of these players. Like I get 2021 German,
2010 Ubaldo,
and I get 2010 Ubaldo, and I'm trying to I'm looking at the numbers to see who I think I know, like deep down, I think I know who I'm gonna go with. Ubaldo pitched 221 innings and you had a 700 winning percentage that year. Good grief. Yeah, I think I'm starting Ubaldo. I'm benching German and I'm cutting John Gray. I think, yeah, unfortunately. Because I think peak German is better than peak John Gray. But as we're seeing, maybe going forward, like John Gray might have the longevity.
Yeah.
But if I'm getting the best versions of them, I think I'm starting Ubaldo, I'm benching German, and I'm cutting John Gray, as much as it breaks my heart.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. Just Ubaldo is just so dominant because he was that fireballer, whereas German can be the fireballer, but it's a little bit more refined. But strikeouts, I think, are a big thing. Just getting people out, which John Gray can do. He gets the solid strikeout numbers. But I lured you in with the easy ones, and then I punch him.
Yeah. Disconnected. Oh, there it is.
There you are. I went black, but I could still hear you.
Oh, okay. That's why I didn't want to say things. I was like, I think we might still be live, so I don't know. But
we'll edit it out.
Yeah, post.
But Nolan Arenado, Troy Tulowitzki, Carlos Gonzalez.
Oh, this one's not fair at all. Get out of here. Oh, boy. Well, start Nolan. I think Nolan is the objectively best player of those three. And given what I know about the history of how things panned out, oh my God, this sucks. But I think I know. I'm benching Cargo and I'm cutting Tulo. Like, it's unfortunate, but like if you think about it now, like in Rockies lore, like Tulo's a legend to Rockies fans, but like Cargo played for a while and was and was definitely the face of was a key vet there for a bit in the post Tulo era, and Nolan I think is going to go down. I mean, Nolan is the best Rockies player ever, potentially outside of Larry Walker and maybe Todd Helton. So I think Nolan's going to put up pretty better numbers, and then you consider the defense and everything. So yeah, man, that one, geez, 2 back-to-back gut punches there. But I think that's where I would go, just because if the Rocky, the Arenado, like Trevor Story, I think there's an argument to be made that Trevor Story might have a pretty similar legacy to Troy Tulowitzki.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Tulo, all-timer for sure. Kind of surprised that number 2 isn't retired in a way, but maybe that'll come later. I guess he wasn't that great with the injuries, but like that would be, if you're going baseball stuff, if I'm going a lot, it's like I can't trust Tulo to stay healthy where I can trust Arenado and Cargo to stay healthy enough. But man, would Tulo have loved to be a DH.
Yeah. Or just to not have legs made of glass.
Yeah.
So to speak. Okay. One last one here. Toadsworth, Blue Noki, and Goomba.
Oh, this is easy. Okay, so definitely starting Toadsworth and benching. Goomba is potentially the worst player in the game. I mean, or one of them. Baby Luigi is up there too. But Toadsworth can pitch. Toadsworth he's a tricky bat, but he can put it over the wall. And Blue Noki's got great defense, an elite defender. So, you can Noki, who Blue Noki is Garrett Hampson, like to the T. Like you're not blown away, but you're like, pretty fast, like track a ball down, like we'll flash a little bit for you. Ultimate utility player. Goomba, get him out of here. You don't need Goomba. You don't need
Dude doesn't even have arms.
Yeah. Don't know how he's holding the thing.
How does he throw a ball?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense. So, but I'm glad you finished on an easy one for me.
There you go. I just tried to pick the most random, like
that was a random group of characters. I will give you props for that.
Toadsworth. What do you think the baseball world react if somebody came up to the plate, like Nolan Jones comes up to the plate and he's holding the same kind of bat that Toadsworth has? There's just a stick with a little knob at the end,
basically. Yeah, they'd be like, that guy's crazy. He's not going to make contact with anything.
And then belts a dinger.
That's the thing, though. It's like you might not make contact, but when you do make contact, that ball is crushed.
He just bounce on its head in Mario Sunshine.
Oh man.
That's my running joke with me and my brothers is we'd always say Toadsworth.
I think that's the only one that they have like a voice actor for is that game.
Yeah. It's the weird old man noises. And yet he gets snubbed from the Mario movie and they put some other random toad with old man voice.
Don't worry, Toadsworth will make it. The sequels are coming because they're just going to make a bajillion of them now.
It'll be like the search for Spock, but instead they're looking for Toadsworth.
Right.
And on that note, that'll be this edition of Affected by Altitude. And we always appreciate you tuning in with us and appreciate Paul joining us. Always a pleasure to have you.
Always happy to be here. Hey, check out Locked On Rockies if you need more Rockies coverage. I don't do any writing, but these guys handle all the writing over here, so I don't have to worry about it because I get to read their writing. Talking Rockies baseball, Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Help us out if you need more Rockies talk, and you're going to see Skyler on that channel real soon.
Indeed. I may even be wearing the same shirt.
Whoa!
You can find us, follow us at Rocky MTN Rooftop over on Twitter. You can also find me at sideline_crowd. Find me writing articles over at purpleroad.com, as well as fansfirstsports.com. Just trying to do as much writing as I can. Good stuff. And also be sure to check out any new episodes of Every Rocky Ever. Always fun. Well, may have to get you on one of those episodes too. Come talk talk one of your favorite Rockies with me.
Oh, I happily. I have plenty of Rockies players I can gush over. Kaz Matsui.
I already did that episode, but we can always add it in.
Yorvit Torrealba.
That would be a good one. We do need to do his episode. That would be a good one.
I don't know much. He's one of my favorite all-time baseball names.
It is pretty good. But you can always check out those. Me doing it with my brother Dustin and try to get more guests on there. We've had Patrick Lyons on there, some other guys, but good stuff. But as always, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time here on Affected by Altitude. All right, you remember what to do here, Paul?
Well, no, I don't. You have to give me a reminder.
Farewell.
Farewell. The Muppets, that's right.
Kermit the Frog, Mr. Bean.
This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.